Once we are ready to the installation of the editing software for the images, so basically ImageJ, with the script, the macro that we prepared for editing the software, editing the images, we are ready to edit our first set of images. So I prepared these images and I copied them into the C drive in a folder in it. So I created this folder called MSI, Multispectral Imaging, and inside the folder there are the raw images. So first of all, remember this is explained in the video how to shoot the images. The images should be in the raw format. Then basically the process involve splitting these images into the red, the green and the blue channel. So we have a black and white and native black and white images for the red channel, the green channel and the blue channel. This process is done by ImageJ. So the images are saved into C folder MSI. So we have 18 images. And so we launch ImageJ. Okay, so here is a start, and there it is. So we go into File, Antonello Split. So the first step is Antonello Split. So split meaning separating the red, the green, and the blue channels. Okay, here we say, okay, so this is a batch mode. This is just faster. We first locate the folder containing the images to split. So they are into the C drive MSI. There it is. By the way, it's important, remember, since this ImageJ is a software based on Java doesn't like spaces in the names of folders, in the path, inside the directories. So basically, remember to use names that do not contain spaces. In the names of the files also, not only the folder. So we selected this folder MSI, okay, then we say click select, and you see the software is starting to work. So basically in this process involve looking at each image and basically creating, splitting into the red, the green and the blue channels, and selecting among these three the one image that is brighter. So because the idea is that the more brighter is the image, the less noise we have. So we have a clearer image. So that one will be the image selected. So now the process is done. We don't see anything because basically in the upper, you see here, if we go back in the C drive, we have MSI is the folder containing the images. The software, this Antonello Split, will create three other folders: MSI brightest components, MSI2 registered, and MSI3 calibrated. 1, 2, and 3 represent the step we need to follow to do this editing. So now, if we go into MSI brightest components, we have the images that have been split and selected among the red, the green, and the blue. So we can look here, 4 or 5, then we have this other one, this other one, this other one, and so on. So we go from the first, this one is 920 nanometer. Okay, now the next step would be to first register these images. As you see here, the images, you see, for example, the first and the second, they do not overlap perfectly. So this registration is done in order to take into account the fact that the images could be, I mean, the camera could be shaken while changing the filter, or in any case, since we need to refocus because we are using a normal lens in our camera, when you do the refocusing, the dimension of the image, so of the area that you are photographing, changes. So you need registration. We do the registration using our own app. Unfortunately, we didn't find a good plugins for ImageJ that suit our task in this case. So basically, remember, in this case, for our images, for the registration, we want to take advantage of targets. Targets are the piece of cardboard that you put on the four corners of the images. So for example, over here, remember, we put these targets 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we are ready basically to register these images. We go into the software folder that we downloaded from our website. MSI software is over here. And among these programs, this file, there is registration app. So we go here, registration app is just an executable file. So here there is a little bit of a manual. We just need to double click on this one. Of course, since it is an executable file, Windows asks permission to run it, run anyway. Okay, and there it is. Okay, so in this folder explain how in this window it's clear how to proceed. So we start with image folders. So we want to select browse the input images where they are. So they are in the C drive, local drive. Here we have MSI. Remember, we need to put here MSI 1 brightest components because this software is looking for JPEG images. So there they are, so brightest component. And here we see the images, they've been loaded, so we can scroll among them. Then here we have output images. Of course, where to save the images and the kind of format for them. So we could choose among PNG, JPEG, and bitmap. Let's go for JPEG, browse, where we want them to be. We want them into the local disk drive, MSI, registered, of course. Okay, let's say okay, so see MSI2 registered, that's fine. Then we go down here. Okay, so here we see different images. For example, this is 4 or 5. And targets diameter in a pixel. So basically the idea is with these targets, the image, so has some dimension, we did check it. Basically, you can, with any software, basically for photo editing, you can see how much, how large is the diameter of the circle of the target. So that one will be between 90 and 110 pixels. So here we put this value. And at this point, we can go into process reference. So the idea of the reference image, so we have 18 images. one of these is chosen as a reference, among which the other images will be registered. So in this case, you see I selected 405, the one taken at 405 nanometer with this filter. And here we have ID of reference image is 0 because the software is named starting from 0, 1, 2, 3 until 17. So for example, you see the last one, 920, is 17. So ID of selected input image right now is 17, the ID of reference image is 0. We are fine to use the first image, why not? And we go into process selected. So I click here and basically the software has looked. Okay, sorry. Process reference. Sorry, we click on process reference. There it is. And basically you see now here we see some numbers. These are the coordinates of the targets, the center of the targets. And for example, the first one, the first corner, top left, the software says that it is at 304 x and 641. Let's check it. So if I go with my mouse over the target, basically here we're gonna see the value of the position of the target. I'm talking about this bottom, on the bottom left of the of this window, pixel value at position. So I go here and I see the software recognize the position, and there it is. So you see basically I'm moving the pointer, the mouse, and the values are fine. So we are in all the 300, 640, 620. Of course, there is in the positioning of the mouse, it's not precise, no, for the mouse, but we see that we are in the range where actually the target should be. Okay, we can check the other one, the bottom right. I put in the mouse over here, and the value that I read is 2020, 2200. Okay, so there is fine, 2200. And then we have 2800 for the y-axis. Okay, so basically the position of the targets in the reference images has been done correctly. So I can go into process all the other images. So try now eventually to register all the other images over the 405. Okay, click process all. So the software is now looking at the other images. You see that's what's happening. So now we see if for each of the image the software is able to locate the position of the targets and is doing the process for all the other images. Okay, take a minute basically to do this process. Okay, so we are at 640. So now we are moving into the infrared. So we are 700. We see also here how the pigments become more transparent. On the left, there is always the one at 405. So is basically we are in the violet range. And here the pigments, you see, becomes transparent. And then we have 920. So okay, so all it's done, the process is done. We can click exit because we are done. So it's just a matter of clicking a few buttons. So let's see if where are the images that have been registered. So we go back in a local drive, the C drive, and we have the folder MSI2 registered. So there we are. So we have the 18 images. Let's open the first and we move across them. So you see now while I'm scrolling among all these images, the position of the targets is the same. So the pigments become more transparent. We see their brightness change going into the infrared, but the position of the target is maintained. On the other hand, if I go back to the MSI brightest component, just to make a comparison, you see here, while I'm moving the target, you see they change position because those images are not registered. So, okay, so this would be a problem if the images were not registered, and we solve it. At this point, we have this folder with the registered images. We can move into the actual calibration process. So what we do is we go into ImageJ software, we go in File, Antonello Calib, the software start. Of course, as usual, it asks if you want this batch mode just to be more fast. It's okay. So first choose a folder with the registered images. There it is, MSI to registered. Okay, we just select this folder and we do select. Then he wants to know where to save them. We go in MSI3 calibrated. So select, and the software start asking us to do something. So select, it says select 6 swatches from white to black. So this is the process. When we did the images, we did the shooting, it's important to have the reference target, the TP MSI calibration card. So the idea is that this is the white, this swatch over here, and this is the black. We need to select a smaller rectangle inside these swatches. So it has to be small, and the idea is that make it inside, make it inside the swatch, not too much. Okay, there we are. Sorry. Okay, let's magnify so we see all the... Okay, there we are. So make the rectangle like this, not too much close to the border, because there could be some pixel that is moved, and so it could create some issue with this calibration process. So the rectangle should be like this. So inside, and the idea is that we want to have some pixel to make an average value. No? So that's why we want to have some pixel. So you do select this rectangle. To select the rectangle, you have to click, left click and drag. So your mouse, left click and drag. So once you make this rectangle, you press Ctrl M. And look here, we have this window, results. So I'm here on the software, I click Ctrl M, and you see here in the results we have some data input. This data is related to the area selected by the rectangle right now. So it says mean. Mean means the mean value of the brightness of this area. So now, since this is an image, this image is in black and white, what we see are values between 0 and 255. So values of brightness. 0 means black, 255 means totally white. So the brightness of this area in this photo is 83. Then there are the other values, basically are the dimension in pixel of this area, but it doesn't matter for us. What matters is the brightness of this white spot. Then what we do is we want to process the other 5 slot, so we want to move this rectangle toward the black. We can do by selecting the rectangle, so I'm left clicking with the mouse, just dragging and releasing in the middle of the first gray patch. There we are. What we do is Control M and we see the other value 75, and basically we do the same thing. Okay, if you adjust resized by accident, but doesn't matter, so it doesn't have to be the same size rectangle. Okay, I'm on the third now, so I do Control M. I actually can use the arrows, the keyboard arrows on your keyboard to move this rectangle. So probably is more convenient. So I'm here on the fourth, so I do Control M. Then I use the keyboard arrows to the left, okay, to also do here, and also I go here. Control M. Okay, now I have these 6 points, these 6 values selected, and I can click OK. After finishing, click OK to continue. Okay, now the software basically is looking at all these 6 points to calibrate the images. So we can go back to the C drive and we go inside the MSI tree calibrated. So we see now the images basically looks almost the same, you see, because they are now calibrated. Compare, for example, how they looked when we just have the registered images. So this one was very dark, the 405, this other was brighter, the other were much brighter. We go back here in calibrated and we see now they look, even now just in these thumbnails, they look much better. Okay, the process is done. And so we see that in particular while we move across all the images, so from the violet to the infrared, the brightness of the swatches, of the calibration swatches, is maintained, while the pigments change their brightness because they become more transparent in the infrared and have different behaviors also in the visible range. Then basically these are the images that we are going to load into a multispectral imaging software that is actually the software that just load the images and make the then the nice maps, the false color maps, the segmentation, the classification of the images. So far, what we saw was the editing, the preparation of the images. That was necessary because we started from using a standard, basically a digital camera modified for UV-Vis IR, but it was a standard camera, not a monochromatic camera like a black and white. So we started from a color camera and then we edit the image. So far we have reasonable black and white images ready to be loaded into the MSI software.